Imagine a giant train packed with toxic chemicals, flying down the tracks with no driver. Sounds like a Hollywood thriller, right? Except this one was real. In 2001, Ohio witnessed one of the most terrifying real-life chase stories ever. A runaway train to 47 cars long, hauling thousands of gallons of molten chemicals, thundered through towns completely out of control. If it derailed in a populated area, the explosion could have flattened entire neighborhoods. The day started like any other for engineer Jess Knowlton and his crew. They were moving freight through a small yard in Ohio when a simple mistake changed everything. A routine switch, a few missteps, and suddenly, the massive locomotive began rolling on its own. The brakes, not set properly, the throttle, stuck open. By the time anyone realized what had happened, the train was already gone. Gaining speed, headed straight toward the city of Kenton. Dispatchers across the CSX rail network were in shock. One of their trains had just vanished from control. At first, they thought it was a technical glitch. Then reports started pouring in. A 47-car freight train was tearing through crossings at 40 miles an hour, with no crew on board. Police scrambled to block intersections. The Federal Railroad Administration was alerted, and the big question hung in the air. How do you stop a steel missile weighing nearly 10,000 tons? The Runaway wasn't just heavy, it was deadly. Several of the tankers carried molten phenol, a toxic chemical used in plastics that becomes explosive when heated. If one car ruptured, it could release a poisonous cloud and cause a chain reaction of explosions. One dispatcher later said, "It was like chasing a bomb on rails." Local police tried to intercept the train at crossings, but it was moving too fast. Railroad crews lined up switches to divert it away from populated towns. Helicopters from local news stations began following the Runaway, broadcasting the chase live. Every mile it traveled, the risk grew higher. Some officers even tried shooting at the emergency fuel cutoff, but it was armored, impossible to hit safely. Meanwhile, engineers were desperately searching for a solution. They realized another train, engine 8392, was nearby. The idea: chase it down. Engineer Jess Knowlton and conductor Terry Forson were tasked with an insane mission: catch a train going nearly 50 miles per hour, and stop it before it reached a major city. They throttled up their own locomotive, full power, chasing down the Runaway on the same track. For over an hour, they played a high-speed cat-and-mouse game across Ohio's countryside. People gathered near crossings to watch. Helicopters circled. Everyone held their breath. The Runaway barreled through Marion County. It blew past a rail yard at 50 miles per hour, shaking the ground so hard it knocked over signs and rattled buildings. Dispatchers managed to clear the tracks ahead, but the Runaway kept accelerating. Engineers feared that if it hit a steep grade, the pressure might cause the brakes to fail completely. One wrong switch, one missed signal, and hundreds could die. Meanwhile, Knowlton's chase train was gaining. They planned to couple onto the back of the Runaway, a maneuver almost never attempted at that speed. To pull it off, Knowlton had to match the Runaway's speed exactly. Too slow, and they'd miss. Too fast, and the impact could derail both trains. In radio chatter recorded that day, you can hear the fear and precision. "We're closing in. Maintain 47.3. Steady, steady." They locked on. Sparks flew. The two locomotives slammed together, and miraculously, the couplers held. Now attached, they began braking, slowly, dragging the Runaway to a crawl. But the job wasn't done. The lead locomotive, the one powering the Runaway, was still running at full throttle. They needed someone to climb on board and shut it down manually. Conductor Forson volunteered. As the train slowed to around 10 miles per hour, he made the move. He climbed out, stepped across to the Runaway locomotive, and pulled himself inside. He reached the controls, grabbed the brake, and finally, silence. The beast was dead. When the train finally stopped, the world exhaled. No one was hurt. No cars derailed, and a potential disaster, one that could have wiped out entire neighborhoods, was avoided. The story made global headlines. The two men were hailed as heroes. The rail company called it a miracle of timing and courage. Later investigations revealed that a small oversight during a shift change had caused the Runaway. The engineer had left the cab to realign a switch. Thinking the brakes were engaged, they weren't. Afterward, safety procedures across American railroads were rewritten. Deadman switches, brake checks, and communication systems were upgraded. It became a case study for risk and responsibility in industrial safety. But for Jess and Terry, it wasn't about fame. They said, "We were just doing our jobs." The story fascinated people everywhere. News outlets called it the Steel Stampede, while others dubbed it the train with no driver. It inspired documentaries, interviews, and eventually, a Hollywood film that dramatized the event for the big screen. But the real story, it was even crazier than the movie. Two men, a 10,000-ton bomb on wheels, and one impossible chase that saved an entire city. It's a reminder that sometimes, the line between chaos and safety comes down to courage and instinct. Next time you see a freight train pass by, remember, it's not just machines and metal. It's people behind the controls, making split-second decisions that can change everything. If that runaway hadn't been stopped, how different would the world remember that day?